Hi there, and welcome to Delhi. I just arrived from Kathmandu and I'm transiting to Dubai. Today we're going to do a combined trip report and, shall we say, a check-in on the state of affairs of Indian aviation and Air India specifically. Stay tuned for a midpoint status check as well of my journey from Brisbane to London, so I can explain the somewhat complicated nature of where I'm going next. I chose Air India for this flight primarily because of the scheduling, and also I thought that it would just be an easy transfer, like this is Air India's home. That really wasn't the case. I approached the international transit area and was directed to go to the transit desk. I already had my mobile boarding pass for this flight, but it wasn't acceptable. At the transit desk, I was told that I couldn't transit. I needed to enter and then exit India, because I didn't alert them in advance that I was coming. It sounded as absurd then as it does repeating it now. Any frequent travelers will know that passport pages are precious and finite things. I explained where I came from, where I was going, and reluctantly, after a little almost begging, they called Nepal Airlines to verify that I was on that flight. Again, my boarding pass for that flight wasn't good enough. Anyway, 20 minutes later, I got through. I'd normally just give 2 seconds to explaining this story, but the thing is, we're here today as part of my Roots and Hub series, exploring the airport that the new Air India wants to turn into a global mega hub. So I suppose it'll be a bit of an uphill battle from here. Luckily, I have hiking boots. Before we start climbing though, I'm Kevin, the Flip-Flop Traveler. If there's one thing that I want you to know about my videos, it's that my opinions are honest and my own. If you'd like to know more about the channel and how I do things, scan the QR code or click the link in the description to learn more. Have a look around the channel. There are hundreds of airline and hotel reviews to enjoy. This chaotic reality check of a flight begins now. As we head through the airport, I'll show you the Air India Lounge as well as a peek at the NCOM Lounge here in the International Terminal. The Air India Lounge was actually looking better than I've ever seen it before, but ironically has since been closed for a full remodel, which I noticed when I was there last month. So Delhi really isn't part of the original kangaroo route which I'm exploring in this series. But as part of the series, I wanted to explore quite a few more airports which already are or are trying to be the next generation mega hubs. The hops along the modern day kangaroo route, if you will. In 1930, Delhi's first airport, Safdarjung, opened to commercial traffic. If you've ever driven through New Delhi and noticed an airport kinda in the middle of it, that's the one. By World War II, Palam Airport, the predecessor to where we are now, was built, and for years it was serving mostly as a US Air Force base, beginning to accept passenger flights by 1962. Over the years, the airport has grown at a steady pace. In 1986, along with the opening of Terminal 2, the airport was renamed to Indira Gandhi International Airport. The largest growth spurt to come was laid out in the Master Plan of 2006. The plan called for 6 terminals, yes 6, to be built with what seemed like an endless supply of gates and stands. If you look closely at the graphic, you can see how extensive the terminal sprawl would have been. Those are all little gates and planes. The first, and in reality last piece of this plan to open was Terminal 3, where we are now, which opened in 2010. Works were stalled, and by 2016 a new master plan was created which called for the refurbishment of Terminal 1 and building Terminal 4. Terminal 1 was rebuilt and reopened in February of 2022 for the airport's low-cost carriers. Terminal 4, well, it still eludes us. It seems the airport authority has learned just to not present any more massive master plans, since I couldn't even tell you the status of Terminal 4 if I wanted to. Which is slightly concerning. The thing is, currently the Indian carriers have around 835 aircraft collectively, and they have a whopping 1,810 on order. So the number of aircraft in the country is going to double or triple in the next decade or so. And my only question is, where are they going to put them? And that brings us to where we are now. Currently, this is the 10th busiest airport on Earth by passengers, with over 72 million of them last year. In case you weren't aware, Tata Group, along with its partner Singapore Airlines, purchased Air India and Air India Express a few years ago. At the time, Tata already owned part of Air Asia India, and Tata along with SQ owned Vistara. There was a grand plan of combining the 4 carriers into 2, and that plan is set to be finalized very soon. Vistara will operate their last flight as a standalone brand on November 11th of this year. Kinda hard to believe, but this is my 11th trip report on an Indian carrier. So I've been talking about this merger for quite a while, and I do kind of feel the need to point out 2 points. One which is going in the wrong direction, I think, and the other which just isn't moving fast enough. First, the going in the wrong direction bit. Competition in this market. India has nearly 1.5 billion people. And how many airlines? Soon to be 8, that's it, counting only the ones that have 5 aircraft or more. That's the equivalent of Vietnam with its 100 million people having half of one airline. You might remember back in my Akasa Air video, I made the comparison that I know many don't appreciate, but it's the only country with the same population, so it's the obvious one to compare it to. These days, China has 42 airlines with over 5 aircraft each. I'm not at all saying that India should look to China when it comes to aviation, but I just think it's a very stark and pretty relevant contrast as far as competition is concerned. Just in the past 10 or 15 years, in India, we've lost the likes of AirAsia India, Vistara, GoJet, Jet Airways, Jet Connect, Kingfisher, Indian Airlines, Indian, and AIX Connect. They all went out of business or consolidated. Plus, I'm sure there are tons others that I don't know off the top of my head. Conveniently, I think it's this lack of competitive landscape that led to my experience on tonight's flight. For this flight, I paid for an economy ticket and then bid for an upgrade, similar to my previous Air India flight. Honestly, I bid on both at near the lowest level, expecting to just get neither of them or maybe one of them accepted, but in the end snagged both of them. Boarding began. I was around 5th in line, and ahead, 2 passengers' boarding passes did the dreaded "there's a problem" beep. They were pulled aside. Then mine was scanned, and it did the same thing. We were being downgraded. We didn't really know much more at that point. We were just asked to wait to the side. A few moments later, someone else did the dreaded beep, and soon we were starting to pile up like dishes in a dorm room. We kinda collectively asked why we were being downgraded. Our seats were inoperable, we were told. With that, the short gate agent, short in attitude I mean, explained to each of us what was wrong with our respective seats. For mine, there was no electric power, so I couldn't recline or go flat. I said, "That's fine. I don't need to sleep." The other 3 joined in and said the same thing. As this was going on, to a comical level, more boarding passes were beeping. "Sir, your reading light is not working." "Madam, your footrest is fixed in position." Hearing this, I asked the agent, half frustrated, half amused, how many seats on the plane are inoperable? 6 in business class were fully inoperable, and a few others had smaller issues. The agent went to ask the purser or the captain or someone if it was okay that we actually did sit in those seats. 5 or 10 minutes later, it was deemed okay, and at that point we were nearly the last ones to get on board. We went down the jet bridge, and were greeted by one of the most gracious pursers that I've ever seen. No, definitely the most gracious purser that I've ever seen on Air India. He apologized profusely to the couple in front of me, said that they would do everything possible to make the flight comfortable, and he offered, or declared, that our upgrade fees would be refunded. Apparently, we all upgraded. I was up next and got more or less the same spiel. The purser telling the gate agent to take note to process the refunds. Anyway, here we are on board. I've been in this product before, on Air India on their 787-8s, which this is, and very similar seats on other airlines like Latam and Ethiopian and quite a few others. There are 3 rows in a 222 configuration for a total of 18 seats. So, if you haven't completed the math yet, that means a full third of the seats were broken, and the condition overall, not so fantastic. And that brings us to the other point that I was mentioning. Tata has ordered 470 planes for the new Air India and Air India Express. 470 planes, but the ones that they're flying now are quite literally falling apart. Perhaps they should have, at the very least, ensured the planes that they had already were presentable, or just worked. This flight was some months ago, but I follow a lot of forums and blogs about aviation online, and the number of people complaining about these exact same seats not working in some way, shape, or form is alarming. And it's hard not to wonder where else that lack of giving a crap also applies. At this point, I'm surprised Singapore Airlines hasn't been more involved to push for things like this, push for just general maintenance. It's got to be embarrassing for them to be associated with such a poor product at the moment. Let's keep in mind that they're not just some innocent 2% bystander. They own 25% of the new Air India. Beginning next year and lasting for 3 years, a wide-body retrofit program will begin, when the interiors will be overhauled. Let's hope that it actually goes somewhat according to schedule. If you're enjoying the video, please go ahead and click that like button. Clicking that button and subscribing really is the easiest way to support any channel at no cost to you. If you're looking for more information about my travel in general, weekly posts, advanced itineraries, or custom travel advice, I'd invite you to check out my Patreon or YouTube channel memberships. We pushed back, taxied, and lined up for a 9 p.m. departure. The takeoff and airport stats are coming up next. A quick run through the comfort items before we get into the meal service. We've got that dinky little gold lame pillow that you know thrills me every time, along with a thin and somewhat scratchy blanket and a selection of earbuds and decent headphones. A brief aside, I am the flip-flop traveler. I am, shall we say, pro feet. If you want to wear flip-flops, or sandals, or socks on board, I'm happy if you're happy. But, big but, my sight is the only sense that should be involved. Never should any of my other 4 senses be involved. My neighbor didn't get that memo. So I was surprised and delighted when we found another broken seat. In this case, his tray table wouldn't deploy, and so he moved to another open seat far, far away. Now that I've warmed up your appetite, let's take a look at the menu. When ordering, I asked for a Coke Zero or a Coke Light. They said they didn't have anything diet and offered to mix regular Coke and soda water. That's not quite how sugar works, but they're creative, I'll give them that. The efficient service began with a ramekin of mixed nuts, and the full tray service soon followed. An appetizer of a zucchini cream cheese roll with cranberry salsa, melon, cherry tomato, and lettuce was served. Not my favorite, 5.8 out of 10. Luckily, the main dish was much better. Palak paneer, Indian cottage cheese cubes in a fresh spinach gravy, served with cumin onion pulao, 5-spice tempered mixed vegetables, garlic tempered yellow lentils, and beetroot raita. This collectively was an 8.6 out of 10. For dessert, which was just handed to me, that's better, it was a baked mango cheesecake. A solid meh at 6 out of 10. Alright, let's explore the wide world of entertainment on board. Halfway through the flight, my monitor randomly started working. Well, working just long enough to give you a very brief tour. The moving map working was just apparently a bridge too far. Before we take a look at the deeply dirty bathroom, let me share with you where we'll be going over the next few weeks. So, as I make my way along the kangaroo route, the primary cities that were a must-visit for me in South Asia were Kolkata, Karachi, and Colombo, the latter for its role in the double sunrise route. As you may know, there are no flights between India and Pakistan. I suppose the logical and easy way would have been just to fly to Karachi via Colombo from Kolkata. But I'm not really good at logical routing, so here's what I'm gonna do. Tonight we're going to Dubai. From there we'll take Emirates to Lahore, then down to Karachi on Flyjinnah, and then back to Dubai on Air Blue. Then I'm going to teleport to, or maybe I swim, you'll never know, to Bengaluru to check out their new terminal and a lovely flight on Air India Express to Chennai. Then pick up Sri Lankan to Dubai via Colombo. From there, we are well positioned to pick up the logical routing back from Abu Dhabi. This was not the order that it was filmed in, unless you think I actually did swim to India. So yeah, quite a few interesting airlines and destinations are coming up soon. So, the bathroom. I say deeply dirty, not because it's like dusty. If you wanted to clean this bathroom, you would need an hour and a scrub brush. It needs a deep cleaning, just like many other touch points on board. And please don't forget, don't dispose your tablecloth in the toilet. I need to quickly mention 2 notes about service. As I said already, I sing the highest praise for the purser, but at the same time feel bad because it's so clear that one of the reasons why he deals with situations like today so well is because it clearly happens to him like every day. In a good way, absolutely nothing fazed the crew. I mean, like, for example, if you tell the crew on a regular airline, "Hey, my outlet's not working," most of the crew would reply, "Oh really? Did you try to do this, or this, or this, or this?" And after you exhaust everything, then they'll go and try to fix it. On Air India, tell them, "Hey, my outlet's not working." They'll get straight to the point. "Okay, I'll try to fix it." The second note is that how well the crew dealt with a cabin that had 6 kids in it. They tried to keep them entertained, help them set up their beds, help them order, etc., etc. Okay, this was a bit of a complex trip report, but we're coming in for a landing soon as we approach Dubai. The airport stats and landing are coming up. In conclusion, Air India will never be able to run if they don't relearn how to walk first. Perhaps if India had more competition in the aviation market, rather than allowing one company to buy up 4 airlines, Air India would feel more pressure to actually maintain what they already have. So I do hope you enjoyed this one today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe with notifications on for 2 new videos each week. I'll see you next time on Emirates in a painfully tight seat to Lahore. Oh, and as always, thanks for watching until the end.